Our nurses, our future. This is the theme for the International Nurses Day, which is the 12th of May 2023. Nurses of South Africa, just as the other nurses of the world, have sailed through difficult, rough waters, wherein we were dealing with COVID-19 as the last line of defense to the health systems globally.
I solemnly pledge myself to the service of community and humanity. International Council of Nurses, it says respect nurses so that autonomy secure global health. So in order to achieve those things, we need nurses.
I'm Delwe Mapotoma, a clinician at Roslyn Clinic, and International Nurses Day. For me, International Nurses Day is the celebration of nurses, of what we do as nurses. We get to remember why we became nurses in the first place, and how are we changing nursing moving forward.
What nurses do, no one can do. What nurses can do, not even one who can take at the street or bring it at the table and then do something for you. So nurses, we are different, regardless of the challenges that we are facing.
As a result, the country is currently back to fully operational and fully opened. We can then therefore say, nurses of South Africa have emerged victoriously from the difficulties of COVID-19, as it were.
In a primary health care settings, so we achieve more. We achieve more. Remember, we have HIV first before COVID-19. So HIV, if you can check, before Sustainable Development Goal, it was a Millennium Development Goal. We have achieved all those things. And then right now, we are most based on a Sustainable Development Goal number 3. So those goals, if you check, despite we have problems, we have shortage of nurses, but we have achieved, because you can see in HIV, prevention of mother-to-child transmission, all women are tested, put on treatment, children are PCR are done, they put on treatment. Those management of HIV, we do it diligently, effectively, so we don't have the problems. You can only have one problem if the patient is coming from another province to us. Is where at least you can find a HIV positive child. But besides that, we don't have a HIV positive child, because we start at ANC, then to labor ward, and to PNC. PNC is a postnatal care. So to PNC, we manage that child until 2 years before we refer her to chronic.
However, with COVID-19 behind us, as we may seem it is, there comes problems that are as a result of the difficulties that incurred at that particular time. One of which was the neglect of certain services within the health sector, which now has created a backlog. As a result, it is now creating a strain to the nurses because of lack of support. But over and above that, nurses themselves are suffering the consequences of the entire system.
Whereas we are also struggling inside the facilities, which is something that the media doesn't show. The media won't show that we are understaffed every time. There's no day that goes by where you'll say, oh, today we work nicely. The nurse-patient ratio is high.
Protection is a major one in nursing facility, in all systems, in healthcare delivery systems, especially in PHCs. I'm not sure about the hospitals, but where I am working, I'm working in Winterfeld. It's like a rural area. The situation out there is really overwhelming. Then we have crime that is happening in all the districts. I'm in Tshwane district, the whole district of Tshwane, including my facility. I was one of the victims of the crime. I was working night duty, as I say, I'm a midwife specialist. I'm working in labor ward, and then I deliver women. I don't expect somebody to come with a gun and then pointing at my head so that give me the phone.
We have lack of resources. You order a BP machine, you get a fridge or a microwave. And you wonder who's making these priorities, because you expect them to understand that you are saving lives, not warming your food. And then you get again to a place where in the media they will tell people that this is what we are introducing in the facilities. We are not consulted. I believe that being consulted, asking us for exactly what we need so that we can work within those needs was going to be better, so that we can give proper and quality patient care. But instead, things are going to the media without us being consulted.
When we say we have shortage of staff, community think that you are the cause because you are eating you are spending a very long time eating. That's the situation that we're facing. But reality, without nurse, there is no hospitals, there is no clinics. So there is no healthcare system. We are the pillar of the healthcare delivery system. We are the heartbeat of healthcare delivery system. We are the mindset of healthcare delivery system. So we are the bone of the healthcare delivery system. And we are the roots of the healthcare delivery system.
And we look again at COVID. You know, working with COVID has changed a lot of people's perception when it comes to nursing. We used to want to work, and then COVID came. We were working under conditions that were not favorable. PPE was stolen, PPE was given of poor quality. Nurses lost their lives. There was no resources. Patients were losing lives in front of nurses who cannot do anything, and they were taking blame for all that, forgetting that they are not the ones who are supposed to get those resources. And with that, it changed. It made us a bit angry at being a nurse, and you don't like the career anymore. It used to be a profession that we went in with passion, we went in with heart, because that's what nursing needs. But then now, when you think that you are going to lose a patient, not because you want to lose a patient, because you can't do anything with that patient. The patient will be gasping there, oxygen won't be there, and you are expected to do something. The family is looking at you. And after all that, we needed debriefing, which was never offered. It was offered after 6 to 12 months. I couldn't understand that. We needed accessibility to the wellness clinic. After being infected with COVID, our families, we took it to our families. They were infected with COVID over and over because of faulty PPE. But that issue was never addressed. So it makes you very frustrated. And then with the short staff, we look at how the nursing intake is. Firstly, they take less students in. The students suffer for community service placement. The students suffer to get placement after community service. And with that, we have a lot of nurses retiring. COVID at least made people realize that you cannot go up to 65. It's very risky. They go out earlier. Pension is taken earlier. We lose those nurses. The posts are not filled. They are retrenched.
ICN has released a report that explains that most nurses globally are suffering from anxiety, from post-traumatic distress, from burnout, as well as depression, which is a problem for us as a country. And ICN has already recommended what is to be done by countries globally. While we think that COVID-19 is behind us, there is still many challenges that we experience as a country. There is still overcrowding in facilities. You can see evidently all over. There is still shortage of staff, in particular health professionals, but included in them is the support staff that are supposed to be supporting the nurses, doctors, and other health professionals in facilities. There is still shortage of medication. And moreover, there is low pay of health professionals in our country. However, ICN has looking into the future and has suggested a charter for change as a way to deal with these challenges going forward. And the charter for change looks into different pillars that they suggest countries must adopt as well as to address. Part of them is to make sure that nurses are supported by countries. The support in terms of the psychological support, we need nurses that are well supported for their safety and their well-being. And the support would include physical support in the form of security in the facilities. We don't need nurses that are still going to be either attacked within the health facilities. We don't need nurses that are going to be raped in the facilities. However, over and above that, we need nurses that are going to receive psychological and social support within the workplace that they have. And this goes hand in hand with all other health professionals and health workers within the system.
We have to do away with this political post. Nurses are not being, they're not being put in positions whereby they can use their qualifications. You see a post in policy making, you try to apply for it, and then they give it to a political person. The next minute you get these instructions that you are supposed to implement that are not even within. You can tell that these ones are not constructed by somebody who has been a nurse before. Like I said before, the nurse-patient ratio that was enforced on us, it's not possible. You cannot see a patient with 5 minutes and then push them out so that you can meet that nurse-patient ratio. We are dealing with a lot from the community. We need to provide proper health care. We need to give care that you also will want for your family. But then they expect you to see a patient in 5 minutes. That is not fair. They need to look at that, and if we get involved in those positions, if they get us to be hired in those positions, we can change nursing. We can put it to where it was before this whole economy was going down and then everything was just taken, nothing was put back. I think that if ever you put a nurse in a position that will deal with nursing issues, it becomes better. And when I say a nurse, I'm not saying somebody who comes from school and be put in that position without knowing what is happening at the facilities. You must have experience. You must be there. You cannot say nursing is simple when you don't know how it's like to go home at 8 o'clock while the clinic closed at 4 because you were alone with more than 100 patients. And when you complain about it, they will tell you that you must write a message that says you work under protest. It doesn't cover you.
Which employer can come down there, discuss with nurses what they are facing, because overcrowding is a huge problem everywhere, and then shortage of human resources and consumables is a problem everywhere. And then when you are working, you need to inform patients what is going around your facility. So if you don't, so they will fight, and they will fight you. Some other nurses are facing a problem whereby patient can just hit you by just saying, no, we are short-staffed. Then it will hit you. But then you are always drinking tea. You are always drinking tea. You don't check other patients. So in our facility, let me talk about my facility. In our facility, the way we are short-staffed, we are 47. It's a CSC. We are 47 in number, professional nurses only. So meaning, before we start to work everywhere, we start in labor ward first. Then we can delegate others, maybe around 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, delegate to other facilities, and then come back after 14 hours, come back to the facility in the labor ward again and work.
The state must invest in nursing. the state must invest in health, in the training of human resource, in the support of nurses in general, but in the opening more of facilities and accessibility, because that is the only way in which our country, South Africa, can achieve universal health coverage, which in our country we call national health insurance. To be realized, it can only be that nurses will have to play a very active role in the health system in general. Developed countries are rigorously recruiting from Africa, including is our country, South Africa, which is now going to Western migration of nurses out of our country and other health professionals. We call upon for responsible and ethical recruitment by those countries. However, the situation worsens our crisis in that we are having more than 40% of nurses who are going to reach retirement ages in the next 15 years. Therefore, we call upon our government to invest more in the training and recruitment of nurses into our system, because if we do not have that, it means in the next 15 years we shall be challenged where there will be no one to mend and take care of our population, including ourselves, by the time we may be reaching retirement, including the nurses that shall have retired at that particular time. As a result, we are still re-emphasizing that there must be huge investment by government as well as the private sector in the training of nurses, increase numbers so that we can replace the 40% that is going to soon leave the system. In that way, we'll mitigate and strengthen the resilience of the health system and the nursing care in our country. Therefore, the NOSA calls upon our government through the National Department of Health to adopt the ICN Charter for Change and collaborate with us in order to address the challenges of the health system, because we are committed that we should realize universal health coverage in the country, and we want to do our part.
Having said all that, I would like to say Happy Nurses Day. Let's go out there, let's go celebrate it.
Today is about nurses and nursing, only about us. Therefore, we must celebrate it with joy and enjoy that the world globally is celebrating the hard work that you have done and are still doing as nurses. So we can say as the NOSA, hold the fort, for your nation and the country needs you. Happy Nurses Day to all the nurses. Enjoy, and we love you.